I had a comment in the questions the other day about community preparedness for wildfire. And it's something I did want to talk about more on the channel this spring. So I'm glad that they brought it up and reminded me. And I hope that people will find this video useful and interesting and helpful. So I think the first step is to talk about the common idea of how we defend our community against a wildfire, its strengths and its weaknesses. And then maybe we'll go on to, I might have to make a second video. We'll see how long this goes. We'll go on to further things communities do and have done and can do, ways you can fight back or be extra ready. And I'm speaking specifically for instances when fire starts, you make the call to wildfire service. They say, yeah, we'll launch people, but we got people all over the place right now. We have an IA crew that's ready, but they're 2 hours out. Maybe we can get them by a flight, whatever, Sometimes when the fire first starts, getting the resources there quickly is a problem, and you as a community need to be ready for that scenario. I think if you want to ensure your long-lastedness, you have to be ready to hold out until wildfire service can come and relieve you. Okay, let's get on with it.
There it is. This is bad news. My God. Falling out right now. What do you think it happened? Get on! Wow. I'll watch the video later. They try mopping this.
So we'll start by visiting this article that appeared on Firefighting in Canada, steps your department can take to prevent and mitigate wildfires. So this is the first step that we need to all be ready to do as communities. Wildfire Community Preparedness Day. That's a good thing. Yes, that's a really good thing to have in your community, is organizing things like that. Organizing more community events, more community meetings, more community discussions, not just sort of like an overview once a year from a larger level, but like continual active organizing to be ready for the day that wildfire threatens your town, as is the case in many small communities across BC that are quite remote, reserves especially too. They're all over the place in the wilderness, often quite far out. And this is the case in the north. This is the case in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba and Northern Ontario, that sometimes these communities need to hold out when it comes time fire starts. But what helps you hold out, first of all, is the basic readiness, right? So they're taking a tiered approach, many departments are, on not just responding, but mitigating, right? So we think of wildland fires as being relegated to the areas surrounded by forests or nestled in transition zone with thick vegetation and brush. Interestingly enough, the battleground moved from traditional threats to associated with forest fires to areas that in the past worried less about interface fires. This has several factors, from urban sprawl, of course, to more drought conditions. Well, climate change, let's call it what it is, right up to the prevalence of certain construction materials, of course, as well. Preparing for wildfire season was often a phrase heard around fire halls and bases, usually around spring. These days, preparations are done year-round, not just at fire halls, but at the community level. And this is a key thing right there at the beginning. Fire halls and community has to be talking about this stuff year-round now and preparing you. It's up to you to ensure your community's survival, and it starts with organizing. First tier has to be on the individual resident, of course, and what we can do to mitigate our properties from the dangers. So Fire Smart Canada, of course, resources like that are really helpful. Using science-based programs, Fire Smart develop practical and effective tools to aid residents in assessing the risks for their homes. We're not going to talk about fire smarting much in this video because I've talked about it lots on the channel, and maybe we'll talk about it in a whole other video still this spring. But these are the things that need to happen. You need to get on it on individual level and on the community level, right? So technology is playing a stronger role in firefighting, especially in monitoring conditions that exacerbate wildfires. So I think another thing too is having informed residents, having the knowledge getting out there, having the community put the knowledge out there, having, like I'm trying to be the person in the Caribou often that's putting the word out about the changing conditions in the forest, how the temperature and humidity levels are affecting the fuel conditions or the possibility of burn, when wind will whip fires up and when it will not, when cool or wet weather will suppress fire behavior. That's all stuff you're going to find on this channel through this year like other years in the past, and also on Interior Weather and Wilderness Watchers. So the second tier has to be communities, a partnership between municipality and the residents. often fueled by volunteers or fire departments to spearhead the initiative to make the town resilient to wildfire. I think communities have to have a person they appoint and perhaps pay to be their wildfire specialist, their preparation specialist, right? Although there are lots of steps that can be completed to strengthen community defenses, some are more obtainable, involving preparing and reinforcing fire breaks, ensuring water dugouts are accessible, especially in Alberta there. And perhaps whoever that community member is that heads up wildfire, their job is to organize the community, to set these meetings, to approach people, to go talk to various people in the community, make a list of who has talents and start figuring out how they can be put to use. So the municipality has to play a bigger role, and that includes regulations, legislations with burn permitting, right up to construction materials required, spaces between housing, water supply, all that. In a lot of cases, water supply isn't a problem here in BC. Most people relate to the municipality's role in wildfire prevention with work completed by their local fire departments. Although obvious, this is the important link in the tier chain. Firefighters train for wildfires, but they have to ensure their crews are properly equipped to handle the threats. Right, so your little structural department has to be ready for all the different tasks that could come up should a wildfire appear in town. You can't have a situation again where the fire department evacuates and then out of town fire resources come in to help make up the difference, right? It's your community, your department. When you join your fire department, you should be joining with the understanding that you are there for these moments, to be putting up sprinklers, to be setting up water lines, to have things ready to go, and be ready to fight should you need to hold the line until help can come. But we're not going to talk too much about that yet. Okay, so reducing fuel load is an obvious step that can be taken, right, through preemptive burning, and that's best left to trained firefighters, of course. Controlled burns and things like that around communities need to happen more and more. Stockpiles of foam reserves, pre-placement of water tanks, maintaining adequate numbers of roof-mounted sprinkler kits, making sure roadways are clean, natural barriers are brushed off. Education's a big one. It's a component of the fire service to educate people on the dangers of fire, and that, of course, includes fire behavior, explaining how fire works, understanding it, communicating that to the town. Residents should be taught how wildfires start, what kind of weather, what kind of days they're likely to happen. We have a lot of thunderstorms here in Wells that are going to come through in wet conditions, and when the forest has been wet, that was different last July, and I knew that, and I was trying to tell people when those lightning storms kicked off here, and they did exactly what I said they would do. They started fires around, and those fires burned more or less exactly how I said they would. So, look to people who have information and understanding and knowledge that's science-based and practical, and try to make sure that your community has access to knowledge like that in relation to your own community as much as possible. So it doesn't have to be the classroom format, but hey, you could do that too. One of the ideas for Wells here is to also have fire breaks logged in. And the problem with the fire breaks is also the same problem that there is with fire smarting properties, which is that it gives you a little bit of a sense of complacency. It lulls you a little bit. It's like, well, we got fire breaks. We're good. Well, we fire smarted our properties. What can go wrong? Well, what we see is an extreme fire behavior. Fire doesn't necessarily care. If you're not there to fight it, that fire's still going to crawl on the grass and risk burning your house down. I mean, it's still important. These things are still like, this is what you do. You fire smart. You set up breaks. But as you can see, we have a number of breaks already out there in the mountain on the side of Wells that is going to face town. So there is some form of breaks already in place. Plans for the north side here are somewhat redundant with the base of water in between, and basically the wind almost never, especially if you're in a fire weather phenomenon here, the winds are going to continue to come from the southerlies and from the westerlies like they do, right? If it's coming from the north, we're going to run out of fire weather pretty quick around here. That's generally the case. Things cool off pretty fast. So, of course, that's our community forest here. So, there is always small scale logging going on in there. I think the health of that forest is really great right now. And that's a great example of something that's happening that's good here, actually, is that the selective logging in there is opening the forest up a little bit, but when you walk through it, it's still a very shady forest. And that's my problem with fire breaks in general, the concept of them, is that they're of course, like I say, they're necessary. And it's like all these logging blocks could give us access to stop something up here. You got you got the lake here, you got roadways. There's a whole bunch of breaks, actually, but still there's this like large area of greenery that does surround wells, right? And then, the thing is, like, the prevailing idea is like, well, we just keep logging it off or thinning it out, right? But what happens is extreme fire behavior runs across these areas pretty much as fast as it runs through the trees. We've seen that. And if you look at where the fires were last year in Wells, and they've already got the maps updated on the SAT here, it ran across valleys. It ran across Pleasant Valley Creek there, burnt up the water, it burnt up across all these logging blocks, just went for it, didn't care. When it ran. It didn't, there's all kinds of natural breaks there. There's all kinds of natural breaks, all up and down this area. This is all low country in here where that, there's water down there. There's river. It jumped it like nothing, ran up over the mountain, and then finally got into the tall timber, and still wasn't stopped by blocks further up. It burned right through those blocks, right? So just to give you an idea of like, that's extreme fire behavior. It only lasted a short window, but when it went. It really, really went. So the fire breaks alone aren't necessarily enough to stop a really, really ticked off rank 4, 5, or 6 wildfire that's running. And of course, if it's rank 5 or 6, there might not be much you can do either way. So when we talk about community preparation, we'll talk about that. Also, though, if you thin the forest out too much, you're also shooting yourself in the foot in another way. Here we have a very humid climate. We have rainforest just over in the Caribou River here. We've got rainforest just down over past Round Top. Here's rainforest down in the Caribou, just over the mountains from us, just over at Sandy Lake in Lanese, rainforest. It's just over the next set of mountains from us here. We're in a rain belt. We're working towards that here. We're almost rainforest. We're just high country. We're really high country. We get more snow here than they do down at the Caribou River Valley, even though they're in the mountains, right? So one of the things that we have in benefit of the forest here is that it aids in transevaporation. It helps keep moisture moving through the province. One of our big problems in BC is that we've affected that quite a bit. There's been so much logging that we don't have this natural process of water just moving through the province, through the trees. So that leads to drier conditions on the whole and leads to further desertification, right? And I'm not saying desertification is what's coming to wells, but you have to look at your area from a scientific perspective when you're making these plans, and not just sort of a one-size-fits-all solution, right? So I think that some of the thinning out of the forest in the community forest needs to continue, and it needs to continue on these sides, right? Now, you got the south flanker here. That's really sun-cooked. So no matter what you do, that's already melting off already. It's melting off this side of the mountain faster than anywhere else around. It gets the sun almost all day. So that's an area that if you have fire breaks there, well, good, because that's an area that the sun bakes that ground. It's very dry up that slope always. It'll be free of snow first. So you're not trying to keep snow there as long as possible, into the spring, into June, in some places on these north-facing aspects, where you have that moisture there buying you precious time to delay the drying process out. So the more healthy forest you have, the more humidity you have, the more shade you have, which suppresses fire behavior. And then you also have more you have more shade that keeps the snow. The snow sticks around longer, right? So, I mean, these are things that locally are that things that we have to consider, but maybe in each individual region, you got to look at your town and sort of have an aspect on types of fuel, aspects, slope stability, how effective will this fire break actually be? You know, is it really just there to provide comfort to our mind, or is it something that's going to really make a difference? And I think the big difference with a lot of fire breaks is they give access, right? So all these logging roads, the benefit of them, even though fire can run across them sometimes, the benefit of them is that they give staging grounds for which you can launch a fight. So if you're going to put a fuel break in there, you have to make that fuel break basically some sort of a serviceable route that you can put a vehicle down or a bulldozer or something like that, and use it to sort of set a you shall not pass, you know, and if fire behavior permits, then you can hold that line there. A lot can be done. So that's just sort of like my own thoughts on Wells itself's fire break plans. Like I say, your own areas are going to have sort of their own unique perspective on that. So that leads us to the next topic, which will be, you know, how can communities prepare to fight? And I think I've already talked for 15 minutes on this one, so we'll make that a part 2. Come back, hit like, share, subscribe, and we'll come back and we'll look at some communities that had to stand their ground and their success rates. There's times at which you're better off to just run because the fire behavior is that extreme. There's times where it makes sense to stand and fight. You need to have people who are very smart, very trained and prepared for this, and a community that's ready and willing to work together to wait out through the hard times until they can be relieved, until like the big time professionals can come and take over, right? So you can't just allow your town to burn down because no one's willing to make a stand. That's what we'll be talking about in the next video. But for now, we'll leave this one at that and say, good luck to you out there. Prepare. Go get your properties fire smarted. Get onto it. You know, there's rebates and there's things you can do. There's help in the community. There's often, like in here, I know there's somebody went around and checked all the properties professionally last year. So there's been like a fire smarting view done at the community level from the municipality, at least perspective, right? So identifying the problem areas. That's all stuff that has to be happening. You start to get on that now. Get your brush piles cleared off, burnt off now. Start getting that stuff done before it's actually season. And you're like, oh, I've been working really hard for the last 2 weeks. I forgot to get around to it. Now there's fires ripping. You know, don't wait. This is the time of year to do it. If your snow is gone, which it's not here in Wells, but it probably is everywhere else. Okay, everybody. We'll see you next video. Take care.